Hello, everyone. We're going to wait a few seconds while everybody pops in, but so happy that you're here. Hope you're having an awesome afternoon, and we'll just get started in a few moments. Okay. Cool. All of our participants are coming in, so happy that you're here. And welcome to Afternoons with the Chief. This is our second round of just some hours with you each day where we get to bring in some of our favorite partners and highlight their awesome talents, the resources that they want to share, and just bring some joy to our days. We got this started last week and had some incredible presenters share some great, valuable tips on sales. Leading sales teams. We also talked about how to really spice up your virtual meetings, and we had some wonderful meeting planners join us just to talk about the state of the industry and all that they're experiencing. And we are so happy to have a bright new sunshine face here today. So I will be sharing a little bit more about Kylie Ray Fitzgibbons, who is here. But first, just wanted to say thank you again for being here. My name is Ashley Lawson, and I'm with the Achieve Incentives and Meetings team. We are based in Cleveland, Ohio. This is actually our 68th year anniversary week of working alongside our clients in planning meetings and unforgettable incentives around the globe. So we're really excited to have this time with you, and we'll be celebrating later this week. We'll be sharing more about that. But today is all about bringing sunshine to service, and we are delighted to have Kylie Ray Fitzgibbons here from the JL Bar Ranch Resort and Spa. They're in Sonora, Texas, and I had the pleasure of going to experience her ranch with a Site Midwest board meeting earlier this year, so we kicked off things there. I can tell you, Kylie Ray, if she looks very relaxed and serene, it's because she's in the spa right now at the ranch. So if you ever have a program there, if you make your way to the ranch, you definitely will find yourself right where Kylie is, breathing in all the essential oils. But really happy to have you here, Kylie. And today, Kylie's going to be talking for about 35 minutes or so, but we really are encouraging all of our attendees to please share your questions, any comments in our chat function. If you have anything relevant to share while she's in her presentation, the chat, and we'll make sure we just bring your conversation or your ideas or questions to the table. But Kylie Ray has been in the hospitality industry her whole life. She got started really at one of the best places we all know of, that's the Ritz-Carlton. She was there for over 10 years. And she was also with Kimpton and helped to open the Kimpton Sea Fire in Grand Cayman. And if any of you have been there, I can't wait to hear about it. I've heard only wonderful things from Kylie Ray and a lot of our friends who have been there. And now Kylie Ray is sharing her talents and her love and her energy with the JL Bar. And everything she does, she provides service with a smile. So we are so happy to have her share her talents, her ideas here. And I just found out in our pre-session that Kylie Ray went to pastry school, and that was her first kind of foray into hospitality. So Kylie Ray, tell us a little bit about it, and I really want to know what your favorite cookie is.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Ashley. It's such a pleasure to be here. First of all, happy anniversary. So much to celebrate, and cookies are a great way to celebrate.
Absolutely.
With cookies, I'd answer your question. My favorite cookie is the standard chocolate chip cookie, but adding some cinnamon into it just to add a little spice and spice up your life.
Oh, I love that. It's lunchtime for us in Cleveland, so you're giving me a sweet tooth. But I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can share your screen. But again, everyone in the audience, please do share your questions, your comments. We really want this to be interactive and you to learn as much as possible about this. So let's kick things off with Kylie Ray.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, and welcome to everyone for joining. As Ashley mentioned, I am joining from the spa location, so hopefully you can feel some of the ambiance from the essential oils and just the atmosphere of being out here and being at peace to get to share peace, love, and happiness with each of you. I do have a presentation prepared, so I'll pull this up so you can share screen with me. And please just comment to confirm you can see it in the comment screen, and we will get started. So again, thank you so much, Ashley and Evelina and the Chiefs team for having me to be able to share my service with a smile, really focusing on the concept of how planners can stay calm in the chaos. And acknowledge from the attendee list that not everyone is necessarily a planner, but has contact with planners or a representation in the service industry. So what I've put together today is a recap of or a version of a workshop that I've hosted across the nation with different industries, not just hotels, but can be transferable to any industry and any role that you may play. So it's all transferable. As Ashley mentioned, I do have some experience or a lot of experience with Ritz-Carlton. So as an introduction to me and then get started, is the 15 years of experience overall has enlightened me with some really key takeaways to be able to share with each of you today. So I've put together a little agenda we'll go over in a moment. Originally, I'm from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and as Ashley mentioned, over the past 15 years, I've been traveling around in multiple different facets and locations of the luxury hospitality industry, majoring in operations front of house perspective, but as we discussed about cookies and baking, I do have culinary experience as well. So tapping into each of the different levels of what I can share with you today. Getting to know you and getting to know me and kind of building this into a relationship, since service is the focus, activity and participation is strongly encouraged. So if you do have any questions or comments, please add it into the chat, and Ashley and Evelina will kind of pause me in between if there's anything we can continue to discuss together. Topic that I like to share in addition to my favorite cookie is my favorite animal is a polar bear. As you get to know me, I tend to be on the more tropical side and love everything warm and beachy. So it's an interesting fun fact about me that I am obsessed with bears, especially polar bears. And you'll see that themed throughout the conversation today. Something that I took away from last week's conversation with Pete was doing your virtual tours and having a theme. So today's theme is service with a smile. And there will be some interactions with polar bears. So as you're interacting, this is a polar bear. It's my favorite animal. And it's also what I like to use as our introductory conversation. Question I'd like to ask for the group is, how much does a polar bear weigh? And if you'd like to share it in the comments, if you know the answer, please share it in the comments. And my answer to you is enough to break the ice, but so some people know the true tons and poundage of the polar bear. That's not a wrong answer either. But this is my intro on how to creatively tie in polar bears to the presentation. But also a fun way to engage with your audience is to offer an icebreaker. So Ashley made a great idea of what's your favorite cookie, and feel free to share that attached. Maybe I'll be inspired to come up with a new recipe and send some cookies your way. But asking these questions, helping to get to know you and get to know each other, is something you can also apply into your best practices with your clients, with your team members, and with each other. As we're going through today, I looked at this particular screen as an opportunity to share an agenda. So these are the key takeaways that I invite you to absorb throughout today's conversation. We'll be kind of touching on a general overview of each of these topics, and I call this my toolkit. So if I were to break down into the top maybe 10 topics of things that I am able to apply to my day-to-day basis to be able to push through any obstacles and challenges that may present itself, economically or just personally or professionally, it all can be applied, as you'll see as we continue. Well, Kylie, why do you have a picture of a house? I say that in order to build a solid house, you have to have a structure and a solid foundation. In order to build that foundation, you have to have a toolkit and some resources. So these items are my version of a toolkit that you can apply to everything that you do. It includes what I call the four-legged stool principle, the concept of routines, function versus purpose, authenticity and being yourself, inspiring a connection, empowerment and ownership, personalized.
I'm not sure if I can't hear you. Can you try your mic again?
Yes, can you hear me now? Is that better? Testing, testing.
Great, we're all set.
That went through?
Yep, we're all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So as you'll read, personalized service communication is key. Anticipation, explanation point, one of my favorite topics. Successful service recovery and gratitude attitude will end at the end with questions and answers with myself and Ashley. This concept of the four-legged stool is the base to any business philosophy. Growing up through Ritz-Carlton, some of my favorite leaders taught me that there's a three-legged stool, and they taught that in order for a three-legged stool to sit balanced, each of the legs has to be managed proportionately. And the three legs were employee engagement, guest engagement, and financial performance or ownership engagement. What I realized throughout the industry growing up was that the piece that was missing was the self-care aspect. And even if you show up and the company or the business offers you employee engagement, guest engagement, financial services, or financial performance and services to support that, if you show up not at your best, it can kind of wobble even more than just those three services, because you are such a big key part to that overall contribution of the team and of all of those legs. So the four legs that I offer, or I encourage you to consider, is employee engagement, guest engagement or client and planner engagement, financial performance to keep your business running, but also your own self-engagement and how you show up. Part of this project is one of my favorite activities. So if you do have a pen and paper, I encourage you to participate or take this as an activity to take back to your team. What I'd like to do is give you 30 seconds and write a list of all the things you love. You can write your favorite cookie, you can write your favorite animal, things that you absolutely love. And when you write that down, write as many things as you can come up with, things that you love and are grateful for. And I'll give you about 10 more seconds to think about it. It's always interesting to see what comes up right away. But as you review your list, that's a quick 30 seconds, but we'll jump into it. The concept of this activity is to challenge yourself and say, what did you write on your list? What do you come up with right in this moment as what is your priority of focus? And then also saying, how far down the list did you write yourself, or did you include yourself in that list? Personally, when I first went through this activity, I did it 2 or 3 times and still forgot to write myself in it. Now I've practiced it quite a couple times, hence the polar bear hug, and loving yourself as the activity name. It's something that you can practice, or even just a self-check of saying, am I making sure that I am providing the best services to myself so that I can show up the best that I possibly can? And some of the best tools to make sure that you are taking care of yourself is having a routine. So I write, are having routines a good thing? Tim Ferriss has had a couple of successful podcasts and really great books to read. Just as a suggestion, as a takeaway, to follow Tim Ferriss. And the quote in the middle of the screen says, if you win the morning, you win the day. With this concept, I have a picture of a military bed because from family members who've been in the military, their first thing they do in the day is make their bed, so that they've been able to achieve certain things throughout the morning to set them up for success throughout the rest of the day. Coffee mugs are a symbol throughout the service with the Smile class, on the Rise and Shine piece, as well as the afternoon's Achieve branding. And keeping that in mind is, what does your coffee mug look like? Is there any little bits of inspiration? You can have a happy cup, or do you have a quote on your cup that makes you smile and sets you in a positive place? Setting up your routines personally as well as professionally, so you get into work and know what your game plan is for the day, is very, very key. And realizing that there's different sections of routine that need to get done professionally and personally to have a successful day. This screen is one of my favorites, talking about function versus purpose. So with routines, it might seem like a function, and sometimes those transactional experiences have to happen in order to build the purposeful, engaging add-ons for the interactions that you're creating, for the meetings, for the events, for any of those touch points throughout the day. So if you notice, have you ever taken the word function and looked at the first 3 letters of that word? I have it highlighted in white, for example. It says the word fun. John Acuff is an author, and I've read a couple of his books, and one of his books is called Finish. It helps you achieve your projects because it's easy for people to start. Then once you start, the middle is a little tricky, but how do you finish versus starting a bunch of different side projects, especially when you're planning and you're talking to all of these different site visits and corporations, and you're managing so much all at the same time, is creating that structure, that routine, making sure that you're aware of what functional items need to get done and making it fun. So doing the hardest things first, the biggest projects first, and making it fun to get it done. Activating your purpose is connecting to your why. Why do you do the industry? Why do you choose front of house service versus back of house culinary? Why do you choose to show up every day, and connecting to your purpose and your values goes a long way. When you're interacting with people, so my purpose is people taking care of people. That's my philosophy that I lean on every single day to remind myself, as the Mother Teresa quote, that my commitment is when I show up and interact with someone who crosses my path, my commitment is to make sure that they leave better than when they saw me. And that's a great practice in the service industry all around. Another piece of it is the golden rule versus the platinum rule. So growing up is taking care of people is how do you serve others? And that could be in any facet of your service industry and your contribution. Looking at the golden rule is doing unto others as you would like to be done to yourself, versus the platinum rule, which is doing unto others as, or treating others how they want to be treated. So it's a whole nother level of perspective when you're thinking of service. And I say this example as dietary needs. My mother is allergic to shellfish, and I can eat everything, and I love coconut fried shrimp so much. And if I'm trying to provide service to my mother, she can't have that shrimp. Like, she'll go to the hospital, but I could eat a whole bucket of them and be so happy. Looking at as a service perspective is, even though I love them and I want to make that suggestion to my mom to say, try this, it's so good. Part of that getting to know you, part of that icebreaker concept and building that genuine connection and relationship with the client, with your colleagues, with the planners, with each other, is really targeting to their needs and then making sure that you're fulfilling what they need. So even though I love, love, love the coconut shrimp, my mom can't have it, understanding what she needs in that interaction, so I can suggest the turkey club and she's blown away because it's still delicious, just not my personal preference. It's targeted towards her personal preference. I know it's a food preference, but that's something that we can really look at as we're building events and interactions with each other. So golden is treating others the way that I want to be treated, which is a great concept. The other layer to it is platinum, on how others want to be treated, treat them how they want to be treated. And with that, it's important to have that communication to lean on, and treating your business like it's your own, or treating that person's event like it's your own, but also aligned with what they want out of it. Because I can plan a wedding, and that wedding I can think goes a certain structure, but if the bride wants it a different way, or the wedding planner on behalf of the bride wants it a certain way, we have to collaborate. And in order to collaborate, we have to understand each other and what our understanding needs are. So communication is key. And communication was really highlighted last week in the planner perspective session with the ladies. Forgive me for not remembering their names. I think Danielle was on there. But with communication, I have this picture as a two-way street, because communication is two ways. So it's how I'm delivering the message, and then on the other side of the screen, it's how you're receiving it. And this is a great example because we are live face-to-face and communicating, but it's also important that I'm delivering the message so you're receiving the maximum value to this presentation. So if you do have questions, please continue to post in the comments and we'll build together. With communication, thinking about all the different styles and options for communication is really powerful to consider. Electronically, if we're communicating only via text or emails, it can be misconstrued. And so when you're on the phone or in person, it's really important to understand how the message is being delivered and how you're receiving it both ways. Because as we'll go through this, one of the biggest breakdowns or opportunities happens from miscommunication. And the best way to avoid that is remembering that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth and to use them in proportion. So making sure that you're listening and fully understanding before you're speaking. If you're ever in an interaction and someone cuts you off, taking a moment to really listen and understand before responding. The other part is the perspective piece of communication and how we're working in the service industry to say the guest, even though the guest is always right, sometimes they're truly not right, or the client or each other, right? Employees, et cetera. But if you're looking at the same exact story and the same exact message, you could be watching the same exact little video clip and you might take something different than I took out of, but we saw the same exact thing. And remembering that to apply it to your individual interactions. So we'll go into some examples in a little bit. But with listening and understanding how this can play, if you have a piece of paper and pen and are still playing along, this is a really great activity for you to play with team members that I found to be really successful and like to share with the service with a smile. So the idea is I'm going to give you 30 seconds and I'm going to put a number on the board, or a board of numbers on the presentation. And what I'd like you to do is write down how many numbers when you find them, because it's a number scramble, and write from 1 until as many as you can so that you can figure out how many you can find. So again, this is totally random scrambled, and let's see how many you can get in 30 seconds starting now. Do, 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 do. And going in chronological order to count as high as you can go. See if you can get up to like 90. It's really fun when you're in live, seeing people scribble down the numbers and try to get as many as you can and really focus. And so after your 30 seconds, and that again was a short version of 30 seconds, how far did you get? Did you get 5? Did you get 30? Did you get all 90? And looking at that, it's not a pass or fail game, it's just a fun game to really look at. Because when I give you the instructions, or I can clearly communicate to you how to achieve this project or this scramble, it gives you more defined advice on how to approach it and how to fulfill the outcome, which is get as many numbers as you can in a short amount of time. So if you're going to look at approaching this activity in quadrants, and you see that the top left is number 1, you'll find number 1 in that quadrant. Top 2, you'll find top right, bottom third, and then bottom right, and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you'll find almost 3 times the amount that you did the first time. So the second round of this activity is for you to find as many numbers as possible with the clear communication of me suggesting you to have 30 seconds following that format. If you use your quadrants to find your numbers, and in that routine, it will help you a lot more. So we'll give you 30 more seconds to find how many you can find in that order. It's tricky. Also curious if anyone's seen this activity before, and if you have, how has it worked for you? Or if you see this being able to work for anybody in your group and how that applies to what you do in your current role. I saw someone with building materials on the attendee list, so I'm curious how it will apply to what you do every single day. So with that timing, it'll be interesting to see how much you were able to take away from that second round, and hopefully that made it a lot easier and more concise because of the way we communicated. This next topic is so important. So while we're listening and actively participating in conversation to fully understand what we need, sometimes we need to ask. I have a picture of a bread loaf because one of the biggest lessons was when I first started as an early entry-level manager, and my resort manager explained to me, growing up, his great-grandmother passed on a bread recipe to his grandmother, to his mother, and so forth, and was able to say that this recipe was fitting into a certain pan, and the dough, when it would rise and then knead and go through the whole recipe, they would cut off a chunk of the end and then place it into the pan. Well, Brad at the time asked his mother, as it's passed down for generations, and said, why do we cut off this wasteful piece of bread? Why don't you just use a bigger pan? And his mother said, I don't know, I never asked. And something like that, especially with recipes and the theme of pastry chef comes out. And I'm like, it's so important to ask why and ask how and assertively ask for more information. So if there's something you don't understand, continue to ask so that you can get your answers clear and concise and continue down that communication road so that everyone's on the same page. The topic of being yourself is that comfortable in your own skin concept. So I have the picture of the rubber duck versus the fuzzy duck. And so coming from corporate America, having all of the standards that you have to hit every single time, all of that functional, transactional topics with the standards that you can't miss, brings me to this. Sometimes you feel like you're a rubber duck or what I would call a robot, and you're like, it is my pleasure to assist you, versus, hi, welcome, I'm so happy you're here and I made you cookies and I know your favorite personal cookie and it's fuzzy and it's warm and it's human, right? You're making it a personalized connection when you're interacting with your clients, your employees, your friends, your family, with other people taking care of people. Connecting back to yourself, connecting back to the human feel of what you're providing is so important, to understand what the other people's needs are, but also to present yourself as not a robot transactioning back and forth. So it's very important to be able to connect with each other as real life humans, and being authentic is bringing in the Philly side of me for all those sports fans that are out there. I grew up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I own that I'm a Phillies fan, not the stereotypical like violent ones, but I love Phillies. I love Phillies baseball. That's me. And then getting to meet other people who like baseball, I can connect on that level because I'm being true to myself. So really big piece of authenticity, to be able to be yourself and then allow others to be themselves and understand their perspective might be different and meet in the middle so that no one's stuck being a rubber ducky. Let's see here. Personalized service is part of that authenticity. And this is a quote that I pulled, or statistic I pulled online from a sales perspective. Being able to win your business is so important. It shows over 80% of customers want to be treated like the fuzzy, fluffy duck. They want to be treated like a person, not just a number. And being able to do that, you can collect preferences, as we mentioned throughout the call, understanding who they are, what they're looking for, and what really makes their experience unique compared to just the cookie cutter transactional same old experience every single time. While there's the standardized structure of a wedding, the rehearsal, or even a corporate group, right? You have the mock setup, the site visit, you have the planning, the lunch, the meeting, all of these kind of pieces that have the core function and template, if you will. How do you add that creative side to it to be able to make it personalized? And making it personalized is also about connecting and communicating to be able to build a connection. Inspiring a connection with every single interaction is an opportunity that we all have. And that's the whole crossing paths, leaving people better than when they first got to you kind of concept. And if you notice, the man in the middle is Kevin Bacon. I love the concept of 6 degrees of separation combined with kindness and paying it forward, of how my smile, if I show up at my best self and I'm smiling, you might be smiling. So if I smile at you, it might make you smile. And then you look to your partner and they smile, and you just pass around a smile. And all of a sudden you have 6 people or more smiling. And that energy and that positivity is so contagious to be able to share. As soon as I got on this call, Ashley was huge smile, and Evelina, and so excited to be able to serve me with this setup, which was unbelievable. Thank you, ladies. But showing up as every little step and not taking one for granted. It's not just an online setup, it's an experience, it's an opportunity and a connection. So really tying that into knowing every time you're interacting with someone, it can connect to another source throughout that day. And you don't know what that other person's going through. That smile will go a really long way. The other piece of that topic, sorry, I got ahead of myself. One of my favorite fun facts to share with my team is the average introverted person can influence up to 10,000 people in their lifetime. That's introverted. So whether you consider yourself introvert or extrovert, however you get your energy source, it's interesting to know that you have the power to influence so many people in a lifetime, even in a day, through social media posts, through text messages, phone calls, and through the work that you're doing every single day in the service industry. We're all exposed to so many more people, and being able to connect on a higher level, and knowing how we show up. Sometimes by having all of these resources and ways to connect with people, you might feel like this guy whose feet are just flooded. You're in a pile, instead of a pile of leaves, you're in a pile of emails and phone calls and leads and connections and requests. And it's sometimes feels like it's overwhelming. A tool that I like to use is acknowledge and then reply. So sometimes these requests that come through my inbox, you might have the same thing as you're building events out there. Is someone wants all of the information possible. And if you don't have a base template set up, the best thing to do is within 24 hours, acknowledge the receipt of their message and let them know that you will reply soon. Sounds so simple, but sometimes it's easy to overlook, and then you get backed up on emails and responses, and that's a perception, or that's a way that you're delivering your service and showing up to your guests and whoever is reaching out to you. So making sure that you acknowledge and then reply will go a long way as a good tool to use. Anticipation of needs is one of my favorite things I learned through Ritz-Carlton back in the day, and continue to apply throughout every service interaction that I have. Anticipatory service is, from a Forbes travel guide service training perspective, the best quote that I could break it down into to a short topic is making sure that your client or your guest is not thinking too much or working too hard. That's it. So if I start coughing, you might consider offering me tea, water, or a cough drop. If I am a guest and it's my anniversary and you've already talked to me and built this relationship and understand my love story with my +1, and show up to the hotel for a corporate event, but you know it's my personal anniversary, example, it's Ashley's anniversary, and you learn these key pieces of what their love story is, you can customize an experience to make it personalized versus just another number, attending a group, attending a meeting, and just going through the motions, right? So anticipatory needs can go a really long way. With anticipatory service, once you're able to meet the needs of the functional steps of the service you're providing, there's another layer to anticipate to be able to fulfill the unexpressed needs of your guest or your client, or the function that you're putting together. And then that little touch of going above and beyond, just like Toy Stories 2, infinity and beyond. The best way to stand out and to go the extra mile is to take an extra step that your competitors might not do. Even though they're capable of doing it, what can you do to make it personalized, unique, and then go a step above? And this is related to problem solving as well as connecting on just an average interaction. So even if nothing goes as planned, but you can still recover, we'll talk about recovery in a minute. But above and beyond is such an extra step to keep in your mind as you're like, what can I do as an extra step? Again, targeted to what they're expressing they need is really helpful to really know what their preferences are and connect it to a personal level. So next level of service, above and beyond. One of my favorite stories with this is with orientation. When I first learned Ritz-Carlton, I was 18 years old and I attended orientation. And we went in for the first day and you fill out a getting to know you form, favorite cookie, standard chocolate chip with a hint of cinnamon, favorite drink, green tea, no sugar, whatever your topics are, right? Everyone's different around the table. We leave for lunch. When we come back from lunch, there's a fresh baked chocolate chip cookie with a little bit of cinnamon on the plate. And you're like, whoa, like that you weren't expecting. It's anticipatory. It's also showing you're listening. And that's a step way above because you just had lunch. You want something sweet, but it's personalized to me that not everybody got the same thing. Super great way to learn and a great story for you to maybe apply towards your trainings and to your events that you're able to provide after a coffee breakout session. Maybe when they come back, you have that surprise and delight, whatever that might be. Maybe it's even as simple as a logoed item that isn't jail bar logo, but it's your company logo because you're hosting your corporation here. But I made you this cute little keychain and put it around there. And you're like, well, that's a nice little touch. You know what I mean? So the little details, attention's in the details for sure. Empowerment and ownership is something that you can provide, like I said, taking on the ownership of the meeting, of the event, of the service you're providing like it's your own, treating it like you have the keys to your car, you have the keys to the kingdom, you are the owner. If you need to be resourceful as you're owning an opportunity, who do you contact when you need to change a tire, when you need to find a spa? Who do you contact? What do you do? How are you empowered to be able to use your resources and own an opportunity for the clients that are in question? A great question, great topic. Ashley and I were talking about an example where a CEO wanted to go to run an errand, and there was a miscommunication between the service provider and the guest. The guest stated wanted to go for alcohol, to pick up alcohol. He is thinking beer, wine, etc. The individual providing service is thinking rubbing alcohol. So he sends him to a pharmacy versus an alcohol store. And then all of this kind of comes together. So when these opportunities happen, it's ownership of the communication I'm providing and the service I'm providing, but also that clear, concise participation or clear, concise communication. When that happens, if there's a miscommunication or a disconnect, there's a way to be able to recover. And that's the authentic self as well. All of these key pieces that we're sharing can connect to how you overcome opportunities. In a real world, we're all human. Nobody is perfect, and we strive so hard, practice makes progress, and do the best we can to offer quality and consistent services to those around us. When things go wrong, how we respond versus how we react is crucial. So if me as a service provider gives the miscommunication to the guest because I misunderstood, how do I recover from that? How do I recover from connecting with the CEO's meeting planner so that I can go to the on-site contact and say, hey, I made this error, how can I fix it, kind of concept. So service recovery is so important. And the best way to find an answer is to understand the root cause. With the root cause, there's an action called the 5 whys. And this is digging deeper into the original root cause versus just what looks like the surface. So just like the iceberg, it might look like that opportunity was, etc. So the first example I have, or the example that I like to share with the 5 whys, is at a recent workshop when I presented this in more detail. The 5 whys was, there was a gentleman who was talking about how the room was not ready for early check-in. That happens, and we know it's a VIP, and your VIP is not ready for check-in. It could be miscommunication, and we can assume that it's front desk or housekeeping or what it might be. But when you're digging deeper into the root cause, you can say, why was the room not ready for early check-in? Well, front desk didn't have the room as inspected from housekeeping. So housekeeping didn't have the room ready. Why? Because engineering had to fix the air conditioning. Why did engineering not fix the air conditioning? Because housekeeping didn't report that engineering needed to fix the air conditioning. So then digging back into that is, why did we not have that communication there? Is the communication a process and a procedure? Is it a training issue? Is it a communication issue? And digging down deep so that once you get that root cause, you can use creativity to find a solution on how to respond and find a solution to not have that keep recurring. Creativity, I shout out to Pete for his presentation last week, and finding creative solutions and themes and how to elevate your virtual meetings and your events. But creativity for problem solving is what I'd like to highlight today in just a few short moments. And this is a funny box of just saying, maybe we should try to think outside of the box. And sometimes you get stuck in that tunnel vision, or having a box over your head where you're like, I can't see clear. So an activity I encourage you to research is called 30 circles. So the diagram on the left of the screen is a picture of 30 circles. I'm not going to dive into it because of the sake of timing, but if you research this, there's a psychology professor who came up with this concept, and it's a really fun activity. And there's several layers to what he proposes, and it's something you can practice yourself as well as with your teams to really trigger that creative juice and keep it flowing so that you have more creative brainstorming sessions. Maybe even a session like this where we're sharing with each other on how to be creative and coming up with different ideas. From the creative side of things, once you come up with a solution and you resolve what you need to resolve, follow-up is so important. And I say an example, a personal example. If you go to the doctor and you have to get blood drawn or some kind of test, and you go home after that, right? Your service is function. I have some kind of sickness or need treatment or something. Take a test. And then the doctor is supposed to follow up with you, right? Or the doctor's office is supposed to follow up with you. What if they don't follow up with you? You're sitting at home panicking about your health, not sharing what the next step is. Same thing applies to events and follow-ups, as well as guest services just overall. So that key is, once it's resolved, guest toilet not working, send engineering to fix the toilet, check. That meets expectations. The above and beyond is a follow-up. Along with a follow-up call, you can also send up a follow-up note to the guest room with a piece of dark chocolate covered almonds, because that's my favorite snack outside of the cookie world, or whatever that might be as you're getting to know them, to show that you genuinely care. Following up internally with each other, saying, hey, I requested this, can I ask for an update? Please give me an update on what this is, or what do you need help with? And following up professionally as guest-oriented or as team-oriented, follow-up is crucial. With this, again, I kind of gave you a short version of the service with a smile perspective. But one of my final tools I like to end on is called gratitude attitude. So it's an activity that you can take away that practices gratitude, and it's 3 gratitudes every day. And I challenge you to not repeat the gratitude that you said yesterday. So if yesterday I'm grateful for the sun, I'm grateful for American citizenship, and I'm grateful for my curling iron. Today, it's going to be something different. And to practice with that, if you look across the room and look at one thing, maybe the pillow across the room, can you name 3 reasons why you're grateful for that pillow? And it just starts small, and it continues to bring that energy of gratitude and thankfulness to share. Even as a concept from service is sharing gratitude with your team, sharing gratitude with your guests, thanking them for working with you, because they have the choice to work with whoever they want. So on that note, I would like to say thank you to Ashley and her Achieves team for putting this together. This is such a valuable tool for all of us to connect in this time of need for community and education. Thank you for listening and for attending out of your time today. And thank you for continuing to smile as you give service to others. Ashley, I'll open it up to our questions and stop sharing my screen.
Great. Thank you so much, Kylie. I think as you did at the beginning, just your smile definitely brings just sunshine to all of us. And I think all of your helpful tips and reminders will definitely help us continue to bring sunshine. We can't not be aware that this is such a challenging time for the world, but really specifically our industry. And we are always the ones that are here to be cheerful and bring that service with a smile. And it's just, we need those continued reminders, because we're seeing so many things change, and just really hard decisions are being made for all of us. We are making them. So just all of your reminders are so helpful, and it's wonderful to think of new ways that we can be anticipating needs and just reminding ourselves to have that attitude of gratitude. I do want to, I see a few questions. Please continue to share more questions. We've got about 15 minutes. And then if you don't have a question, I would love to hear some of your experiences where either you have anticipated somebody's needs, whether it was a client or a guest, or a time that somebody has anticipated your needs. I think that will help spur some of our gratitude attitude today with the 15 minutes left. So I just love to know the creative ways that you've been delighted or you have helped to delight somebody. But I see that we've got a question from Jorge. Kylie, what's the best way to deal with a guest-client complaint following the philosophy, guest is always right, even when they're not? Any suggestions on how to handle that? And Jorge, if you could tell us where you're from, are you on the hotel side? If you just put in the chat so we know kind of what your perspective is.
Thank you. That guest is always right comment is definitely a challenge. I feel from an entitlement side of things is that's been such a big concept across the industry. That guest is always right, and the guest gives you the dollar vote. They give you the loyalty that keeps you in business. So how do you respond to that when they're right when they're really not right? And I think that ties into the perspective side of things, is trying to listen and understand their perspective, and also knowing how to say no. That's one of my favorite tools from a sales training, is know how to say no. So it's not a hard no, you're wrong, but trying to understand where they're coming from and what their need is. Because when you're doing that root cause on a different layer, there might be an underlying need or request that they're not communicating clearly because they're not sure what they're asking for. And just a specific example from Seafire in Cayman, we had almost 30 room types. So from that perspective is, this isn't the room I wanted, this isn't what I promised, like, and that's pretty standard from even event perspective, is this isn't exactly what I wanted, or something didn't go as planned.
Mhm.
Understanding that when they're asking for something and they're saying that they're right, it's understanding what part of their right can connect with what you're trying to say is right and meet in the middle.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think from the planner perspective, don't don't say something that you don't say you can do something that you can't do. And then, get our hopes up that something is going to happen. And then we tell our client. So just back to what Kylie Ray was saying about communication is key. Just having that open communication, and maybe sometimes the why can be used in that way. Here are a few reasons why that can't work. So we understand, why our CEO can't get into their room right away. So maybe using the why, so we understand a little bit more on where you're coming from too.
Great point. And all the way from Mexico, thank you for joining in. That's
Yeah. And I love your hotel. I always say it wrong. Escarat. I've been to one of the shows there last year. It was absolutely beautiful. I loved it. So Bonnie from Total Event Resources, myself and clients included, hate filling out profile info cards, favorites, and stuff. How do you get clients to fill it out without making them assume that they are getting something, or just so you can learn a little about them, so you can be the corporate duck? I would love to share something that we do at Achieve. So even in like when we're when we're working alongside a potential new client, we might be bidding on something. We always send out a client preferences profile, and we used to have it on a Word document and send it to them and have them fill it out, and then you have to resave it and then resend it. And it just gets frustrating. There's a lot of steps. So at Achieve, we always think about what's the easy button? What's the easy way we can do something? So we use HubSpot CRM, and we actually made a form. So it's just a click. So it's kind of like a Google Doc, and you just ask the questions about, what's your favorite wine? What seat do you like to sit on in the air, on your flight? What's your favorite charity? So we can get to know them more. And then it's just something that we, as their partner, have that already in our system, and then we can fill it out for them for the hotel, so we don't have to keep requesting that. So we house that in our CRM. So that's one idea that feel free to use if that's helpful to you. Kylie Ray, feel free to share any of your ideas too.
That's a great suggestion, Ashley. Thank you so much. And great question, Bonnie. Personally, you have the opportunity in your role, Ashley, for example, is you're the middleman. So while I'm on the straight lines, generally managing the resort, sometimes I have a different perspective too. But you're connecting the main contact to the hotel, and you're being that communication channel resource, which is even more of a unique perspective. So being able to get the clients to fill it out, depending on your timing and your structure of your operation, if you have administrative assistants, or if you have an office support or intern that can start building that relationship as a first impression, saying, do you have time for a quick phone call? Doesn't have to be 30 minutes or longer, but just a 10-minute introduction of how excited you are to work with them. And you can have that list of the form saying what you're collecting, and then, as Ashley mentioned, passing it on to the hotel. So that way you don't have to sit there and fill out the paperwork, but you're using that dialogue to control the conversation and get to know them.
Yeah. And then also maybe from the planner perspective, you could just you can have one of you and your CEO or other C-suite members and have that saved. And, the hotel or vendor you're working with might want to know all the answers to their questions, but if you just have a form that you've already created that spells out some of your favorite things and some of your dislikes or allergies, you can just do that for yourself, and we can make that for you if you need, so you don't have to keep filling those out. Okay, Matt Braun from Radisson. In the world we are dealing with layoffs, furloughs, reductions in schedules, how do you recommend we best help and support our colleagues who may have been impacted more than others? I think service with a smile definitely comes into play here.
Thank you. I really think also Afternoons with Achieve, these kind of opportunities and platforms help bring that social connection. When you are in quarantine and you're laid off, and it's easy to focus on what I call the dark cloud syndrome. And you can focus on the dark cloud coming, and you can focus on these pieces that are still facts and real, that it's sometimes less than desirable to approach, but to be able to see that sunshine and to see the light on the end of the tunnel, and knowing that we've gone through world wars, we've gone through a lot of these kind of projects before, we've gone through the market crash in 2008, 2009, and been able to come out stronger on top, is showing up as your best self to say, what can I play to my strengths to contribute to what you might need? So mine is Service with a Smile. Ashley is coordinating the entire platform of Afternoons with Achieve. Some people need other different needs, and being able to say, what can I contribute so that I can provide my best self for what others might need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really like when people have been posting on LinkedIn, maybe somebody's resume, or if somebody is actively looking for a job, helping promote them, or even now putting recommendations like a referral on their LinkedIn, I think is just a boost for anybody going through a really hard time right now, and also lets the world know how great they are and what the top skill sets you see in them. So that could be something nice. I also know Urban Stems. I give a shout out to that's one of my favorite flower providers to use with clients and friends. They have beautiful flowers, but they also have succulents in dinosaur jars. So if you are, if your budget allows, and you can just send them some sunshine, I know that it's just give somebody a smile in that way. I did want to comment. I see in our Q&A, Jen Sauber from Owens Corning, thank you for sharing this. Jorge had asked, how do you tell someone no? Jen commented, one of the things our team focuses on is if we have to say no, offering another option. If we can't do this, we can do this. We never want to say no, but there are times when they are asking for something that we simply cannot execute to meet expectations. Absolutely. So just problem solving, thinking ahead, and that anticipation of needs. What is something else I can solve, or a different way I can creatively solve this? Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that, Jen. And I did want to share the story that Kylie Ray was talking about that had everything to do with communication. Obviously in all of this and everything, communication is key. And when we are working with different countries, different cultures, it's also important to take into consideration, what we say might not be heard in a different way, especially when there's different languages we're working with. So we were in Panama, the Westin Playa Bonita, one of our favorite hotels, and we were with a client there. We had about 600 people, and the CEO got there early. And he wanted just to go out on his own to go pick up some liquor. So he had talked to the front desk and said, I would like to go get some alcohol for some of my top clients. And then the front desk, or the concierge, told him, okay, go to the pharmacy. So he texted me that he was heading off property in an Uber, and that he was going to the pharmacy. And my Spanish isn't great. And I've told some of you on our webinars that part of my goal during all of this and to continue is to practice my Spanish. But I could see that he wrote Farmacia in Spanish, and I was like, why is he going to the pharmacy? He's going to get liquor. So I go grab the director of sales. I was like, do you know where this is? Does this have liquor? And she said, no, the concierge thought he meant rubbing alcohol. So I was like, oh no. So I'm texting the CEO and I said, stop the Uber. And I'm running down the like the driveway of the Westin with the director of sales. She's calling the bellman to get her a car so we can go pick him up and take him to the liquor store. So now I know that he wants to get liquor before programs for his clients. But it was a funny story about communication, and now I can anticipate that need. Okay, I think we've gotten to most questions. I see Bonnie had asked us to share the numbers activity. Is that something we can share in the follow-up?
Absolutely. And all
and then
that I presented were kind of a just taste of what I can dive into deeper. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll dive deeper into any of those concepts.
okay.
And the video that I'll send over as the follow-up as well, there's a really great commercial that's about 3 minutes long about kindness. And I think that that also answers Matthew's question, is saying how do we deal with this and how can we support each other, is lead with kindness and lead with love.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. And I do love how you talked about to infinity and beyond. One of our values that Achieve is to give the world and really go above and beyond, and really that same philosophy of Buzz Lightyear. So I loved that. I was just going to see what other things. I loved how you said at orientation at the Ritz, they asked you your favorite cookie and then you returned and had that cookie there. It was just phenomenal. I love that. We've also been thinking at Achieve when we're interviewing how we can make the interview experience just a little bit more friendly. So we have a one-page year in review that we put in front of our candidate, because I think it's fair that, if they're sharing their resume with us, we should be sharing ours too. And just making sure we've got water and coffee. And I was thinking that with, we have the client preferences profile, but maybe that's something we share with potential candidates, maybe a smaller version of it, so we can get to know them and really connect with them in a more meaningful way when they are coming in, and just try to kind of do those icebreakers more so, because it's stressful interviewing. So thank you for sharing that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else you wanted to touch on. Are there any final questions we might have, or are we good? We've got a few more moments. Kylie Ray, can you share a little bit about the JL Bar and why it would be the perfect retreat place for all of us to go to after all of this? And just a little bit more about it, and I can share my experience was with Site Midwest, so Society for Incentive Travel Excellence. We hosted our board retreat there earlier this year, and the JL Bar is really like no other ranch you've ever been to. It is just top of the line luxury. It's absolutely beautiful. They have the best wines, the best food. They have unique packages, so you can do both all-inclusive or European plan. You can have meetings. They have great meeting space. They had awesome live music around the fireside, so you could have chats there. They have archery and horses there, so we did a horse whispering experience, and it was just the perfect relaxed setting to bring together a small group of people. But feel free to share any more. Oh, and they have a spa, as you know, that Kylie Ray is in the spa right now. It's great. But I think it would be just a really phenomenal place for some of us to send our executives or have retreats at, because it is small, it's intimate, it's very high end. So as you're thinking about Q4 and next year with your programs, I highly recommend it. But I'm sure I missed a lot, Kylie Ray, so feel free to provide any other details.
That was a great introduction for sure. So thank you, Ashley. The JL Bar Ranch Resort and Spa has an amazing story behind it. It's something that I really love to connect with, because it, coming from a large corporate global entity and coming down to a small privately owned and operated resort, you'll see the owners, James and Lois Archer, which is what JL stands for. You'll see them around the resort, checking in with every single guest, coming in for dinner, having that personalized, authentic service. Our mission, vision, and values are hand-painted on some of the walls across the resort. So that's unique to our operation as being a value-based leadership kind of culture and that people first concept. Every single person who is here is uniquely placed in a certain role to be able to provide that authentic experience. The fuzzy duckling. Each of the activities, we have 13,000 acres outside. So from a remote location, as people are focused on where can they travel and what kind of experience do they want to have, reconnecting and regrounding with nature, which we'll go over, I'm sure, the grounding on Wednesday with the yoga moves. You can do that out here. You can be outdoors with nature and being able to connect with a lot of open spaces to really disconnect but reconnect at the same time. Outdoors, ATVs, the Polarises, the horses, as you mentioned. There's shooting and hunting. There's the firesides are my favorite, as we've talked about, Ashley.
Yeah.
Event spaces, indoor and out, there's plenty to choose from.
Great, thank you. And I'm happy to share photos, and they've got a great website as well, so if you're interested, let us know. And now I'm going to share a brief recap of our session, our afternoons with the Chief the rest of the week. But per tradition, I do it with a fun hat. Give me a moment. As Kylie Ray alluded, it is my wedding anniversary. It's 1 year. We've made it a whole year in quarantine. I think that's good. And 1 year ago, I was in Costa Rica at Sueño del Mar, a little bed and breakfast in Tamarindo. So I'm going to tell you our afternoons with the Chief lineup in my sun hat. So tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern, we have a talk with global sales officers and really why it's important and valuable to have relationships with them. So we've got our friends and partners from Alhi, Caesars Entertainment, and Malia Hotel Corporation joining us. Wednesday, as we keep talking about, we need some self-care. If we're serving everybody else, we need to make sure we're serving ourselves as well. So please join us for mindful hospitality for mindful yoga for the hospitality soul with event specialist and marketing consultant Danielle Zinn. She was with us on Thursday for our planner panel, so she's playing dual roles with us. And then Thursday, we've got a talk with some of our partners in the DMC world. So we've got our destination management companies joining us from Pan Amazing, Amstar DMC, PRA, and Connect DMC, talking a little bit how you add some local flavor to your programs when you are hosting at all-inclusive resorts. And then Friday, we are rounding out the week with our Achieve 68th anniversary party. We've got a fun afternoon planned with fun prizes, and we hope you'll join us for travel incentive trivia. We'll be using the Kahoot app for that, and we'll send out more information. But we are so proud to have been in this industry for almost 7 decades, and certainly couldn't do it without all of the partners who have been here on our presentations and really leading with a smile for all of our service. So thank you for being here, and we hope to see you in the coming months in person. But if not, we'll hope to see you at Afternoons with the Chief throughout this week. And after this, we'll be sending a recap email with some of the resources that Kylie Ray shared with us, and also a recording in case you want to share it with others. So we're thinking about you. We miss you, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Have a great Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.